Good morning, everybody. Another episode of the Keep Going podcast, athletes shining a light on mental health. I got Chandler Cox in the building. Chandler, what's going on?
Nothing much. I'm just excited to be here. Happy to talk to you a little bit about mental health today.
I love it, and especially with a returning guest, obviously in the same family like Grant, who I got to shout out, who is fantastic. And I know we'll touch on him from time to time on the call today, but I want you to have your own call. So, talk about why you want to come on this morning.
Well, I think after talking to Grant and just hearing a little bit about his side of things and what he was able to offer, on the Keep Going podcast as the athlete who has, struggled with injuries and has been in those moments. I'm on the other hand where I'm one of those people who's in a field constantly working with athletes or individuals like that, trying to figure out what their life looks like after sports or during an injury. So really being able to have that conversation with you today and explore a little bit about the mental health side from a mental health professional rather than the D1 or college athlete.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to stay there. And just to remind me, high school athlete, college athlete, do you have any sport ties growing up? Talk to me about sports for you before meeting Grant.
Yeah, so I grew up playing soccer my whole life, like started,
Yeah.
5 years old. I have a big family, so four siblings who also all grew up playing soccer. So we were constantly at the soccer field every single weekend or traveling. And I played all throughout high school and personally just got burnt out. I knew I wasn't going to be something that I was going to do forever. So I made the decision to stop playing in college and I actually started playing tennis my senior year of high school. Just wanted to do something fun, something that didn't have all this pressure, and picked up something that I love that I could still do with my family. So now we still go out and play tennis on a regular basis, or Grant and I will go out and play tennis. And now, of course, getting into pickleball, but just a fun way to get active and enjoy, not all this pressure.
No, I completely agree. And I want you to kind of parlay off that because, once again, this is usually a dynamic where we talk about you as a player, we talk about you as a coach. Talk about what you replaced sports with. Like, what did you do with your time? Because there's athletes that will listen today and go, oh my God, Chandler is talking about me. So, talk about that.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I was really able to be a lot more present in things that I was not present in for so long. I think everybody can acknowledge that they missed out on a lot of things maybe when they
Hmm.
were limited to sports, or felt like there was a lot of things that experiences people had that they never got to have. And instead of, being on the field, I kind of got to be on the sideline for some of my siblings' experiences and really cheer them on. And that was super fun getting to see them shine in a role that I felt like, we were both so busy, we never all got to sit and watch each other or cheer each other on, which was really cool. So a lot more family time, a lot more time with friends, and just kind of being able to enjoy like being a high school student and focusing on, what I really wanted to do and what my identity was going to look like after being committed to a sport for so long, and then being like, I don't think this is going to be a long-term thing for me.
Yeah, that's a beautiful demeanor. I think it's refreshing to hear because we have a lot of athletes on here, a lot of non-athletes that are just kind of going through the everyday, the rat race of things. And I talk to a lot of athletes when they're done playing, of course, and they're like, I just wasn't where my feet were. I didn't really enjoy anything. So the fact that you can sit here and say, I enjoyed the greatness of my siblings, I enjoyed my high school experience, that's refreshing. And I think it's really powerful for our athletes and non-athletes that listen today. All right. Well, I got to talk a little bit about after high school stuff. Talk
Mhm.
about college and when did you get on the mental health kind of track?
So honestly, it started pretty young. I feel like growing up, I was very fortunate. I had a lot of blessings. I had support from family and friends in so many ways. And growing up around me, there was a ton of friends, family members that I noticed were struggling in different ways. And it was this constant feeling of being helpless. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to help. And I feel like it was something that truly like ate at me on a regular basis, because I was like,
Yeah.
I want to be able to support these people in my life. I want to be able to help them navigate it. But being so young and not having a lot of conversations about mental health, I was like, I don't even know what this is. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Um, so I pretty sure it started with a psychology class in high school, probably like my junior year. And I was like, wow, this is like really interesting, exploring like why people do what they do, why we act a certain way. And from then on, I was like, I think I really want to pursue psychology in college. And so I majored in psychology at College of Charleston, and then I minored in sociology. So I got to explore a lot more about, human actions and interactions and the way that our mind works. And I would probably say maybe my sophomore year, I really started to hone in on the fact that I wanted to be a counselor of some kind. I didn't know if I was going to be in a school. I didn't know what kind of setting I wanted to be in. But I think just going through different internship opportunities throughout college and exploring a little bit, I really recognized that I like a good bit of interaction with people. So I like interacting with kids. I like interacting with adults. I like interacting with teenagers or people in high school. And so I think a lot of people start to hone in on a specific niche in their
Right, of
field.
course. Yeah.
Um, but for me personally, I kind of like a little bit of everything. So right now in my practice, I see 8 and up, no limit. I see anxiety, I see depression, I see ADHD, life transitions, obviously identity issues, and just getting to have a variety of conversations and interactions it's so valuable and it's so rewarding to me.
I think your experience and the way you talk about mental health is amazing. I think that having someone with your background and your passion for this is like an amazing start to my Sunday morning. So I want to thank you because you have no idea. Like I was a guy, and I've been very intimate on this podcast about saying that I didn't think mental health was real.
Mhm.
I was honest. I thought people were just looking for attention. I thought they were looking for excuses. And then it kind of hits you like either directly or inside your circle. And now you have to be the person that's always had the answers. And now you have no answers.
Mhm.
My question for you would be this: for a normal person, someone with no mental health, no, therapist or psychologist, whatever it may be, background, what would you recommend when you can tell, like if you're a person, you can tell when someone's struggling? What would you have the normal person do to help somebody?
Yeah, I think the first thing and something that benefits us in every way, but just be curious, ask questions, like have an understanding of human interaction and understanding what somebody might benefit from. And so much is like asking ourselves, what do I need from other people? What part of connection like really helps me feel supported?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just like that little bit of internal reflection or that little bit of like this feeling of helplessness or this feeling of not understanding, like, what can I do differently? And just starting to ask questions like, hey, like, I feel like something's going on. How can I support you? And maybe they're like, you can, or maybe they're like, honestly, just you asking shows me that you're recognizing
Yes.
something's different, that something's going on.
When is it a point, and let's talk from like a personal perspective.
Mhm.
When are we at a point where like I'm going through it and I'm talking to myself? Like, when's the point where I have to go talk to somebody?
I think obviously, bias in a therapist
Of
setting.
course. Yes.
I think everybody could benefit from
I
speaking to a
agree.
therapist at some
I
point in
agree.
their life.
Yeah.
Um, I think ultimately, like when it's like, hey, like really time to consider something is when your daily life is being impacted or your daily ability to function. So whether it looks like, not getting enough sleep because of, anxiety or worries or constant thoughts racing in your head or not being able to focus at work or not being able to be present with your family and friends. Those are
Yeah.
all signs that, or maybe heightened emotions or like intense mood swings. Definitely some signs that something's going on and talking to someone could be a really good option for you.
All right. Well, I'm coming at you guns blazing right now with the questions. I hope that's okay.
Absolutely.
I love your profession. I love your passion for it. I love your background. Obviously, I have to bring Grant into this. So, Grant went through a crazy experience as a college baseball player, as a student athlete in general. Advice for student athletes specifically that are going through these issues.
Yeah, I think, you know, really trusting yourself. Like a lot of times when we're in those positions, we're trying to speak up, we're trying to advocate for ourselves. And maybe some authority figures in the role aren't, fully believing us or understanding our own experience. But like we know our bodies, we know our mind, we know what's going on in there. And we have to be able to trust ourselves and really recognize, like, hey, like something's going on and I need to do something about it. I think it's such a silly reference, but when I'm working with a kid or something, asking them, like, why does your stomach growl? Right? It's telling you that you're hungry. In the same way that, like, our heart racing or our stomach hurting or feeling nauseous or dizzy is telling us, like, hey, you're anxious, you're worried, like, you need to do something about it. Let's figure it out.
I think it's amazing too when professional athletes come up in the news, in the media for the right things. When athletes come up like Giannis, after Kapumbo, I'm going to try to murder his last name there. And we had the stuff with Durant from the Red Sox that just came in the media a couple weeks ago. I think it's so powerful when the big names come out and talk about their mental health and they talk about their journeys because it's not just you. So if you're listening today, listen to Chandler. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of, oh my goodness, like I've always done things this way. It's okay. Everyone is in different seasons of life going through stuff. And I don't know. I wanted to bring up that I love when professional athletes come up and talk about it because at the end of the day, correct me if I'm wrong, we're all human beings going through stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no
And
doubt.
being able for like a young kid to see, like, Simone Biles or any
Yeah, yeah,
talking about their journey with mental health and their experience, it just reminds them that they're not alone. And I think that's what everybody needs to know. And sometimes it can feel very isolating experiencing some of these symptoms and not understanding what they are or what's going on. So hearing
yeah.
people that we're actively watching or following talk about it is really, really important.
Yeah, it's not cookie cutter. I've talked about on this podcast. It's not, we don't put mental health in a box. Everybody goes through different stuff. And I think accepting where people are at and just offering assistance is why you're so great at what you do and why we're happy to have you on. I keep saying that, but no, very awesome. How about this though? Kind of a unique one. Obviously, the preface of our podcast is the keep going moment.
Mhm.
Usually it's a sports injury or a family member passing away. Talk about your keep going moment in your life.
Yeah, I think I've been very fortunate, like I said, in a lot of ways. And, compared to Grant and his experiences, like our lives have looked very different up until like meeting each other. And now obviously all of our experiences are kind of combined and
Which is a beautiful thing. I
shared.
love that guy. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
um, but, my keep going moment is kind of every single day I have a little bit of a reward, working with clients. Like there are hard days, right? There are
Yeah.
days where I'm like, I don't I don't know if we clicked in that session. I don't know if, they understood what I was telling them or they felt heard and listened to. And then it's like a little moment of when they recognize like their growth and their progress. And it is so beautiful to see and to be able to be present in that space with them, or getting a message from a parent being like, you won't believe what my kid came home and said, after getting to be present with you in that space. And it's something that just reminds me every single day why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of it is the impact you have on others, which I think is amazing. All right. Let's go into questions here. Obviously, it's a Sunday morning. It's Masters Sunday. I understand that everybody is doing stuff. So I appreciate you coming on.
Of
Let's go
course.
rapid fire questions. The first one, and I keep bringing Grant into this, being a Division I athlete. When it comes to student athletes, I know it's so different. I know there's different pockets. One thing that a student athlete can rely on when they're struggling.
I would say finding their core support. Social support is something that's essential, no matter how we use it. It's like we have these tools in our toolbox, right? And it's like, okay, am I going to actively use the ones that I need to be using, or am I just going to recognize that they're all sitting there? So we have these kind of, I would say, like protective factors, right? So we have social support, we have coping skills, we have physical health, and the ability to do the things that we love. And it's like, are we using those things to truly benefit us and relying on them? So it's like, I'm not going to, go and talk to everybody about everything that I'm dealing with. But if I have those core people and I'm willing to rely on them and tell them when I need help or ask for help, it makes a huge difference.
I'm clipping that 100%. I love that answer. I love that answer. Second thing, we are a sports podcast. Give me your favorite athlete ever. It could be someone you know or someone in professional sports. Who's your favorite athlete and why?
I think, I watched soccer growing up and everything, but I was never super attached to anybody until kind of really starting to watch tennis. And I'm now a huge Roger Federer fan, and I've been able to go and see him, and I was at his final match. And just like the way that he plays, the way that he is a family man, the way that he models like his values and everything that he does. I've always thought it was very beautiful and very impressive and like just an all around really good person from obviously with the outside, what I can see.
Of course, we've had some amazing Division I tennis players on. Heather Gage comes to mind, one of my good friends who played at the Air Force. It's like I just have a lot of respect for the one-on-one mindset of tennis. And the people that can get over that, you against your opponent, how it should be, and not you against you and you against your opponent. I think that's so powerful. And I think for young athletes playing those one-on-one per se sports, it's hard. So I respect Federer, Nadal, and all those guys for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And women like the Williams sisters and all that good stuff
Of
for sure.
course.
Yes, of course. All right, last question here. So obviously you took time out of a Sunday. I'm very grateful for that. Was there anything on the podcast so far that you're like, oh my God, Pat, I'm looking at the clock. We've been on here for 20 minutes. I haven't mentioned this yet. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, I think, Grant and I have obviously talked a lot about mental health and his experiences, my experiences, and I don't think he would mind me sharing this at all. But, when we have gotten to be really open with each other, he is constantly trying to challenge me and make me better, right? And obviously vice versa. But reminding me, Chandler, like if I had someone like you when I was in some of those difficult times, like it could have been a really great thing for me. And not to say that there weren't outlets for him that he could have had, but just encouraging people to seek out support, seek out different mental health resources. And if one person doesn't click, that doesn't mean therapy isn't for you. There's so many different options. And like, we just have to find our fit, right? Like, I'm absolutely not the best therapist for everybody out there. But being willing to try, like meeting different people, really trying to explore who you fit with, who you connect with, and who you feel like can really help you and encourage you to be comfortable and feel safe in that space is so, so important.
Yes, I agree. And selfishly, I think you'd be a great fit for a lot of the athletes that come on here, a lot of the coaches. Just it's awesome to hear you. I keep going back to passion. Like the passion for your craft is ungodly. I would say too, and I said last question, but I want to parlay into it. How big is the faith aspect for you?
Faith is definitely very important. I grew up in a Catholic household and, attended church and was very active in that and grew up going to private school and Catholic school. So I've, really been surrounded by my faith all growing up. So it was a transition going to college. It was a transition, moving out of my childhood home and not
Right.
constantly being in those fields and really Grant and I trying to figure out, what our faith looks like together and what faith we want to kind of continue to build our relationship on. And I think so much of it, I can't advertise that my practice is essentially a faith built
Of
practice
course
because
not. Of course not.
I'm willing to see everybody and bring kind of whatever religion they have and whatever values they have. But being able to bring that in because faith is such a coping skill for so many people, it's such a support. And, for me, it's absolutely something that helps me get through those difficult days and something that helps me just also be present with what I'm dealing with personally and being able to separate personal things from, what my clients are experiencing.
Yeah, it's in mine as well. I mean, it's my rock and my foundation, and it's my safety belt when things are going wrong. It's my glory when things are going right. I think that's a huge part of my story, and I know your family as well. And I love your ability to adapt and take people and meet them where they are because everyone's in a different season. I keep talking about seasons. Everyone believes in different walks of faith and they believe in different things like the universe and everything. I'm not saying anything's wrong. I'm saying that if it makes you a better person, I think love is a universal term. So
Yeah.
I think that's an amazing point. I couldn't go without bringing that up. Obviously, I told myself in 2025 I was going to do a better job with that. So I had to bring that up.
Yeah. And I think like you're saying too, so much of it sounds like comparison, right? Like we can't compare our chapter 5 to somebody else's chapter 20. It just doesn't align. But when you're in the sports world, you're in any sort of career, like or just growing up, there's constant comparison and being able to reflect on like, that doesn't align. I can't compare myself with somebody who's in a completely different phase of life, stage of life. but instead I can compare myself to my past self. Like, where have I grown? Where have I developed? Where have I progressed or changed? And that can actually help me make better decisions and choose to move forward in a healthier way than comparing myself to other people.
That is one of my favorite things I've heard, and I'm glad that you expanded on that. And I have to cap us there because I don't know if I can top that. So selfishly, I will. Chandler, this has been amazing. I have so much love for your family. Just once again, when Grant came on, the one of the first things he said was like, "I'm like awesome, but like you have to get my fiance on at the time." And I was like so taken back by that because I have a fiance of my own that played Division I softball, that went to a sports psychologist, that went through all this. And I wish she would have had someone like you.
Yeah.
I really mean that. And I just think that you guys are a beautiful relationship. I wish the absolute best and blessings to you guys, of course, because you guys are still in the Carolinas, correct?
We are, yes.
I really do. And I wish all the blessings for you guys. It's been amazing. Chandler Cox, a friend, a wife, a specialist, a life changer. Thank you so much for coming on the Keep Going podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
Of course. Keep going. We'll talk soon.